We're back with you on the Mike Scinto Show on 1290 WHIO Radio and Television 7. I hope America's real happy we stooped to Ted Bundy's level today and we executed a man in Florida. We're going to talk about that wholesale kind of killing that goes on in Florida, legal killing, legal slaughter, coming up at 11 and 12 o'clock today on our radio side, so join us for that. Richard Barrett is standing by right now at the studios of WWL-TV in New Orleans, Louisiana. And before we go back to the phones, very quickly, we had a question from some folks here at the station. What you mentioned in our first segment, Rutgers, you gave back a degree to Rutgers. What is your education level, and what would you say the average education level of those people, your followers, are?
Well, I was a sign painter most of my life, and I'm a Vietnam War veteran, wounded twice. I'm a lawyer in Jackson, Mississippi now, and of course anyone that wants to write to us at P.O. Box 6700, Jackson, Mississippi, we can send them our literature. Our people are working people. We believe if you work more, you should have more, and calluses on the hands and mud on the boots are the people that are speaking through me today, and I'm humble that I can be a voice for them.
Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning to your guests in New Orleans.
Good morning.
I have, I am all in favor on Mike, you giving this guy the platform to speak from, because it's something that's real important for our viewing and listening audience to understand about this guy. You know, you use the Constitution to do what every person in America should do. Invite people to hear your program or your voice in a calm, concise manner. But you know something? I'm glad you're so vocal, because I like vocal bigots, because I know who you are. I can track you. Silent bigots are the ones that scare me. The ones like you to come and sit in the studio with a cotton ball on top of your head, and then, you know, all you are is just a different package. You've been redressed, saran wrapped, and put back on the package, and all it is you're representative of what used to be the KKK. Now you're a national organization, the same people, same attitude. You've just toned it down. You've just watered it down a little bit. You've invited some people in.
Okay, let's give Richard a chance to respond.
Well, apparently he has no objection to people that throw rocks, people that loot, people that riot. Just a moment. I'd like to hold up this hand, and I'd like to show you there's no soot here from burning Detroit.
You know?
There are no ashes here from Washington in flames. We are an organization that says, for the American people, it's time, instead of being held hostage to the looters and the rioters of the 1960s and the flame crowd in Miami and the never-ending demands of the minorities, that it's time that powerfully and peacefully that the American people rule. That's one reason why we're calling for the American people to be able to vote across state lines. You see, right now, you could have Detroit, which could pull all of the area down into the lowest common denominator. We want to see that the American people can vote. Sheep herder in Boise, Idaho, suburban homeowner in Chicago, and I submit to you that this debate would end in a single day. Should we close the Mexican border? The American people could vote. Should we have forced busing? Let the people vote. If you're willing to trust the people, and you say you like to hear what Richard Barrett has to say, then let the people vote. Abe Lincoln once said, the nation can't exist half slave and half free. Well, the nation can't exist half black and half white. It either has to be red, white, and blue, or it's going to go down. We want to lift America up, not tear it down.
Ken, thank you very much for calling. Richard, I haven't seen your car or truck. Do you have a Confederate flag on the license plate?
No, I actually have an American flag that I carry with me because, you know, that's the noblest banner, Mike, that ever kissed the air. And I think a lot of these people that want to sully it, want to dirty it, want to loot and riot. You notice in Atlanta, during the Democratic Convention last year, the nationalist movement led the protests in the street against the convention. We said it was undemocratic to have a nominee that would lift up the hands of the homosexuals, or Jesse Jackson that was catering to the non-whites.
What is it? People only have rights, Richard, that you think they should have? Is that the way it goes?
Well, what I was saying is, you notice that the demonstrators there that attacked us were burning the American flag. And as that old country music song goes, when you're walking on the fighting side of me when you're knocking down that flag. You know, a word about the security in Atlanta, Mike. A lot of people said, oh, there were only a handful of people that were marching. They had to barricade the entire Capitol for 6 blocks in Atlanta, and the counter-demonstrators were charging and attacking the barricades, and I made the decision whether the barricades would be opened to try to let our people in and run the risk of letting the demonstrators in, or to keep all of the people out. And the reason we did that was so that the speech could proceed, which it did, and the parade could proceed, even though we didn't have all the people there that had come for the parade.
All right, before we go back to the phones, you'll love our Thursday guest, Richard. I wish you could be here to see it. A man who's going to have a sex change to become a woman. I know you'd love that. Vicki from Springfield, hi.
Good morning.
Yes, you're going to have to speak way up for us, Vicki, please.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to know, sir, I'd like to say you are a racist and a bigot. You should have a hood on your head instead of that little cap that you've got.
Well, we've heard that old broken record before, ma'am. Could we have some facts? The Bible says, let's reason together. Could we do that?
Yes, of course we can. I saw the little film that just went on before you came on. And, yes, there were blacks, and they were throwing rocks and bricks. But I also saw the National Guard that was standing around you. Is that who was there with you that day, the National Guard guarding you?
They were, and I'd like to see that the nation had the same commitment that they did in 1957 to the minorities in Little Rock as we have to the majority today. And let me tell you about my commitment. My commitment to have majority rule and democracy in this country is as strong as the current of the Mississippi River, as pure as the driven snow in the Green Mountains of Vermont, and as deep as the hollows of Tennessee.
And I'll bet you to have people to have the right to vote, Richard, you'd go back to literacy tests in the South, wouldn't you?
Well, I would like to raise the level of the quality of voters. You know, right now in Mississippi, though, they haven't had elections for 7 years because an unelected federal judge under the so-called Voting Rights Act has called off elections, saying that he wants to see that Negroes are installed in office. Now, if you can call for free elections in Managua, Nicaragua, then America, you need to have free elections in the state of Mississippi and everywhere in this country.
From the facilities of WWL-TV in New Orleans, Louisiana, we have the leader of the nationalist movement in this country, Richard Barrett, and we'll be back on the Mike Scinto Show on 1290 WHIO Radio and Television 7. Coming up in our next hour, we're going to be talking about jail overcrowding in the Montgomery County jails. Right now, we're talking to Richard Barrett live from the facilities of WWL-TV, CBS affiliate in New Orleans, and we thank them for their kind help in putting this together. We go back to the phones and say good morning to Brenda. Hi, you're on with Richard Barrett.
Hi, how are you this morning?
Fine, Brenda, thank you.
Brenda.
Sir, I've been listening to you. I have watched you quite a bit through the last year, Morton Downey show, other talk shows you have been on. Right. And you speak of the right to vote. Everyone should have a right to vote, and you speak of the American flag, red, white, and blue. You also say that there should not be a Martin Luther King Day, but you go back and you address Abraham Lincoln's, where there's freedom and there's slavery. Okay?
Right.
Isn't it possible, well, I feel that there is, but I'm asking you, isn't it you're just a bigot? You're hiding behind the American flag. You're saying people should have a right to vote, but when you're brainwashing and you're driving people into thinking the way you feel, I mean, you're saying rioting, drugs, all this comes from black. You're always addressing negative aspects toward black. Just like the
okay. Well, let's give a positive aspect, and let's talk about the definition of civil rights. I think that we've changed that definition because of what happened in Atlanta on January 21st. The nation saw that the nationalist people are civil, and we're right, and that the opposition is uncivil and wrong. I submit to you there's going to be change in America. The only question is who's going to make it. Some people said Richard Barrett is a lot like Martin Luther King. Well, perhaps that's true. We're both social reformers, but there are two main differences. We're not going to loot and riot as they did in the 60s and the 90s. We're going to wave flags and sing songs. King is the past. King is over. We are the future, and we've just begun to fight.
All right, we have just about a minute for a quick question from Darlene. Hi.
Morning, Mike.
Hi.
I'll make it quick. I wanted to say how upset I was about the news clip and how biased I think it tried to be if you didn't pay attention. I think people would have thought they were the ones throwing the bricks. They didn't make a good distinction between the marchers and the demonstrators. I think somebody would have come away thinking they were throwing bricks and causing trouble.